Hey everyone, welcome back to Open. So our next guest is a seasoned actress, writer, and producer who's appeared in shows such as TNT's Claws, Freeform's Cloak and Dagger, and HBO's Flight of the Conchords. She is the producer of the award-winning film Wicked Image, which recently won Best Comedy at Borrego Springs Film Festival. And she's currently reprising her role as legendary Bette Davis in her one-woman show, Bette Davis Ain't for Sissies. And she joins us now to share more, everyone. Please welcome actress, writer, and producer, Jessica Sherr.
Hello, what an intro, thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. I should have had the music queued up for us. You know, she's got Bette Davis eyes.
It's true.
You certainly do.
It started.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
How many times did you hear that?
Oh my goodness, it was uncanny. There was a year where I would be walking down New York City and people would stop me like, you look a lot like young Bette. You got Bette Davis eyes. And then I would have people send me the song, you know, like, and yeah, it's true. I got Bette Davis eyes.
You do. You do. And I'm really excited to dig into this because this has been a passion project of yours that you've actually toured the world doing, right?
Yeah.
And now it's here and you've got a nice extensive run here in New York.
Yeah.
Love that. But when did it first present itself to you?
Well, oddly enough, I didn't know a lot about Bette. I actually had to do a lot of research, and I had a mentor who dared me to do a solo show, and me being Jessica, I was like, if you dare me, I will do it. So I was going to do Funny Jessica New York, doing my New York life. And then that same year, it was the year that people said I look like young Bette Davis, and I was like, all right, fine, I will Google her. And I did. And I thought, oh my gosh, I guess I do look like a young Bette Davis. And then all of a sudden, I read her Wikipedia, I read her book, The Lonely Life, and I fell in love with this trailblazer, firecracker woman who was just so passionate. And that's when it started. I got hooked.
Okay, how long ago was that?
2008, girl. I have not given up.
Wow.
Yep.
And I know you're working on a film version of it.
Yeah.
Oh, did I blow that, right? I jumped too soon. Yeah, no, because they need to come and see the actual theater production of it. But
yeah.
2008, we're in 2024. You've been doing this a hot minute.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Artists, it takes forever. It does not happen overnight. It's a 20-year overnight success. That's my joke. People always say, oh my gosh, Jess, you're doing so great. And like, yeah, it's been 20 years. And it has. I fell in love with Bette in 2008. It took me 3 years to kind of do my research. And then 2010, 2011, I started performing off Broadway, these little Bette Davis vignettes, and then I wrote a show that ended up being really successful and people loved it. I was never planning for it to be this successful, but every time I do it, they're floored by it, and now I've done over 400 shows.
Wow, that's amazing. I also understand that the Bette Davis estate has loaned you items of hers that you use in the show.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, we gotta name those items.
Yeah.
And second of all, after you name them, you gotta share with us what that did to your presentation.
Yeah, it was
energetically. You already know I'm an actor,
yeah,
so I'm like, yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, yeah,
she's on it. It was really cool because I was going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland. I kind of said to myself, could I, Jessica, survive Fringe Festival, which is 24 shows? And so I sent my script to the Bette Davis estate, and this woman, Catherine Cermak, on a Sunday called me, and she said, I read your play, it's so good, would you have any questions? I was Bette Davis' assistant for 10 years. And I said, where do you live? And she said, I live in LA. So I flew to Los Angeles, and she and I sat down, and we talked about my play. And she gave me these notes and these ideas, and at the end, she said, you're so passionate. Bette would have wanted you to have gifts. She gave me a red scarf, these gorgeous turquoise blue gloves, a handkerchief, and earrings to wear in the show, and I still wear them in every single show. So there's a piece of Bette and everything.
Wait. Red scarf, blue gloves.
Yeah.
And what else?
There's a handkerchief, an orange handkerchief.
Orange.
And earrings.
I'm noticing the colors. That's why. I'm like, wait a minute. What else?
Yeah, and then I have the orange. They had the orange handkerchief.
Right.
And then these beautiful earrings that were like these pearl earrings that Bette wore.
Okay.
It's crazy.
And so, first of all, they kept these items.
Yeah.
Now, did these items belong to her personally, or were they part of a set that she, was performing on that stood out, or maybe is a signature of hers?
So what happened was her assistant said Bette loved to give gifts, and she would have loved you to have something of hers so you can feel good on stage playing her. And it ended up being that I, as the actress, completely embodied every time I put on the gloves, every time I wear the scarf, it drops me into Bette Davis. And when I was writing, I was doing research at the USC Archives right before I was going to Scotland. And so I put on my scarf and my gloves, and I was at the USC Archives reading letters that she wrote to Jack Warner. So I was fully embodied in the character. And it was a graceful gift from Catherine, knowing that Bette loves to give gifts, and she knew that I would really appreciate it. And it took me to another level as an actress.
I would imagine so. I would imagine so, because you're wearing her stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe in the power of energy, right?
Absolutely.
And so,
Yeah.
and you know, you're portraying her, and so that requires a certain level of trust in all the work that you have done to surrender into that.
Yes. And
right?
also that idea that it was a gift that was never give up. It was like these little breadcrumbs that I was following to never give up, and that was on that journey that don't give up. Here's something to know you're on track. It's going to take a long time, but you're on track, and never give up the passion.
And so, you know, I was doing some research and I saw some scandalous stuff. I was like, oh, she performing in a garter on stage. So what is it that we don't know about Bette that we're going to learn in the show?
Yeah, Bette had so much energy. I mean, she was a vibrant character. She had so much energy and so much. I mean, sometimes I think it scared people. She was this little thing, 5'2", something or other, and she was little, and she was just fiery. And she had affairs. I mean, she had an affair with Howard Hughes. So in my play, there's an amazing scene of Howard Hughes taking photos of Bette Davis, and it is my amazing, like, you know, a lot of that is poetic justice, but she had an affair with Howard. You can only imagine how wacky Howard was. So that allows Bette to be this other personality type. And she has this moment on stage where she has this affair with Howard, and we see him taking photos, and she's very glamorous, she's very sexy. And then we see the scene right before is when she breaks up with her husband. So in my play, you're going through, you know, you go up and you go down, and you have a complete experience as the audience to go through all the emotions. So it's not just one emotion. You are going through Bette Davis's life of being up and down, happy, sad, you know, all of it is in there emotionally.
And so how long is the show?
75 minutes.
It's 75 minutes. And so do you transform according to the items that you put on?
Well, a little bit. You know, whenever I put on those gloves, it's like, I got a piece of Bette on me. And it's funny because, like, they're a little bit too big for me. So I always feel like I'm growing into Bette. There's a piece of her in every show.
Oh, I like the symbolism.
Yeah.
Yes. That's poetic right there.
Yeah.
I'm growing into her.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, keep going.
That's okay. And then the scarf is just beautiful because it's this vibrant red scarf, and it's, when I put it on, it's actually a scene where she just gets to Hollywood, and everyone forgot that she was there. So it's a fun moment where she's got the scarf on. She's like, "Well, you forgot me at the train station. Where are you?" And every time I have something that's hers, I'm going deeper into that character. Plus, the show I've written in a way that it goes through her life, and it's not just one moment. We're transforming through, like, young Bette into older Bette, and like what Hollywood does to a woman who's that famous, but she gets tarnished by Hollywood, and she gets put down by men, but she tries to stand up and fight for them, which is what the spine of the story is, stand up and fight for what you believe in.
You know, it's unfortunate that that's still the case, right? With regards to women's roles within that industry, and the fact that you're bringing it into light in a way that is still the same.
Yeah, it's 100 years later. Bette would have been like 115 something or other. Her movie Jezebel, which was a huge success, would have been 75, 80 years old by now. Like, it's crazy to think of as that long ago.
So I can only imagine what kind of scandal she created.
Now.
She was ahead of her time. She was ahead of her time anyway.
Yeah.
Right? And to live like free like that in a way of like, this is me.
That's what I think was so exciting for me as the actress, to stand into someone's shoes who was she was so strong at that time. She didn't have, there was no platform for people to stand up and fight for what you believed in. And she was the first person who said, this is unfair treatment. I'm going to say something about it. And she would get, she was scandalous. She would get, often she would refuse to do something, and then they would suspend her. And she couldn't go to work, but she was making a point. Many times. Her and Spencer Tracy, like, all the time.
She said they were getting suspended? That's hilarious.
She would get suspensions. Yeah, she would get a letter, "You're suspended, Bette, for your, like, ill treatment of, whatever it was that she was saying not to do." She really did it. Yeah, she was a fighter.
Wow, I love this.
Yeah.
I love this. Sounds really exciting. So before we run out of time, let's talk about this long run you have going on and the film that's in development.
Absolutely, yeah. These are great. So what I did was I love doing my show, and I mostly tour around the country, and I've been doing it out of New York State. I've been doing it around the country.
Yeah, you've been doing it around the world, haven't you? I mean, come on,
Yes.
you did Europe.
I did.
We just talked
I did.
about it,
I
right?
did.
So,
That said, I decided to do shows in New York because I love New York City. I live here. I love the passion. I love the audience. I love how smart they are. And so I've given myself, we're doing runs now. So it's like once a month at the Triad Theater on West 72nd Street. The next show is going to be Tuesday, July 20th. I have a bunch of people coming. I sell out every show. It's amazing. The audience is just, they love it. And they are listening in a way they've never listened before. It's a different world. Audiences are listening. They're also needing experiences. And they need to be there with us to laugh, to cry, to have a full emotional arc in your life, because it's such a strange place right now. We're so disconnected, not going to movie theaters, we're at Netflix, but this is live theater. It's like this and that, you know, you're in the moment. So this is now gonna be, I'll run through December once a month, and then I have tours outside of New York City as well. And then the feature film, I wrote it with my co-writer, Caitlin. We actually wrote Wicked Image together. She wrote Wicked Image, the film that we've been touring with for the film festival circuit. But the movie is the feature film version of Bette Davis's life. And we wrote it, and it's starting, we have a producer who's starting to shop it because it's time for Bette Davis to be on the big screen, and I will play Bette Davis.
Absolutely. You absolutely will. I mean, from what I read, you and your drama desk director have been really doing some justice to her story, and I'm sure she wants to make sure that the next generation knows who she is as well.
Exactly. I think she chose me.
Right? I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
You're speaking to somebody who believes in all of that,
Yes.
so I'm with you. All right, Bette Davis.
Yes.
I'm Jessica Sherr. Woo! All right, everybody. Jessica Sherr, once again, actress, writer, and producer. Jessica's one-woman show, Bette Davis Ain't for Sissies, is currently running through December 15th, as she mentioned, once a month at the Triad Theater, located at 158 West 72nd Street in Manhattan. For tickets, you can visit BetteDavisAin'tForSissies.com. All right, stay tuned. There's more open after the break.